Friends, today is Shivaratri and let us see some quotes of Vivekananda regarding Shiva and Shiva worship, but also taken in the same context. It may not contain the word Shiva everywhere, but these are born out of the understanding of worship of Shiva. So he says, this is the gist of all worship. Quote, this is the gist of all worship. That is, to be pure and to do good to others. He who sees Shiva in the poor, in the weak and in the diseased really worships Shiva, and if he sees Shiva only in the image, his worship is but preliminary. I hope you understand. It's very simple. Vivekananda also said that the secret of his success is the simplicity of his language. Still, let me explain. If you worship Shiva only in temples, only in a Shivalinga, a symbol like that, that is a preliminary worship. Like you are going to school, and before going to school you go to preschool and then kindergarten, etc., etc. So this is like that. After that you begin to, if your worship is true and if you have understood the essence of the worship, you have kept it in mind and you are doing everything right, then Shiva, your thought of Shiva will continue even after you stop worshipping Shiva. So after that what happens is you tend to recall Shiva every time, all the time almost. And then when you look at this world, you will not be able to see anything other than Shiva. If that is the case, then if somebody in the world does not require your help or does not need you to do anything to them, then they are already happy, right? The Shiva is already pleased. So those people who need your help, need you to put in your energy, time, attention, money, etc. If you do not do that, then how can we know that whether you are able to see Shiva everywhere, right? If you see Shiva and in those forms, if Shiva is suffering, you would automatically put in all that money, energy, time, right, attention. So that is what Vivekananda is saying. See, he says that seeing Shiva in the poor, in the weak and in the diseased. See, Vivekananda is talking about the society as it was before 1902. He left his body in 1902. So now it is 2025. So the society has changed drastically. We need to be able to update this message in its letter. In the spirit it will remain the same. In its letter, saying in its letter what happens is, now poor, weak and diseased is, even now there are poor people, there are weak people and there are people with the diseases. So having continuing to worship those people, but we also need to look after not just financially poor, but also intellectually poor, spiritually poor, mentally poor, right? So they are also poor. Weak people, mentally weak, intellectually weak, spiritually weak, they also should be the objects of your worship. Disease means this whole big disease of Brahma. So people who are in Brahma need to have jnana and therefore be liberated. Okay? So that is also your responsibility and your worship. Let us see next quote. Each soul is potential divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work. That is okay. The only God to worship is the human soul in the human body. If you cannot worship your brother man, the living God, how can you worship a dead symbol? Vivekananda, for all of us, has spoken without any reservations. He never minced words. He had to keep some of his thoughts away from public. Yes, they are still recorded in some books, if you find them, which are not famous. And the other way we come to know is through his descendants, like not his like sons, or he didn't have any children, but disciples, etc. But other than that, he said very clearly, see, he is saying dead symbol. He is talking about these symbols of worship that we worship so much as dead symbols. Understand the person. What then is a live God? Live God is the only God to worship is the human soul in the human body. If you cannot worship your brother man, the living God, how can you worship a dead symbol? So some silly people may say that when he says your brother man, he is misogynistic, etc. All that. No. He means humanity. Anybody, any human being. Okay? So living God, that is the living God. If we cannot do that, then what is the use of worshipping a dead symbol? So do we have, see, what is worshipping a human being? Is it like you will worship the human being as if you are worshipping, as if you are giving arati, and will you place human beings on pedestals and with all this dasopachara, shodasopachara puja, will you do that? You can do that. And in the beginning, I recommend you should do that. Yeah, literally, quite literally, no problem. Do it. Slowly you will understand what they actually need, because this is not what they primarily need, right? So what their needs, necessities are there, to be able to fulfill them, that becomes your duty. Now, when I say need, I don't mean wants, or I don't mean things, whatever they will ask you. In the beginning, again, I will want you to fulfill those also. For example, if somebody wants to have a smoke, for your sake, forget about that person. For your sake, for your understanding sake, give him the ability to smoke. No problem. Because he would anyway smoke somewhere, right? So for your sake, for your growth, give it to him. Understand. If he is pleased, okay? You understand that God is pleased. Now, slowly refine your worship, okay? And then you would go, the people would not be able to tell exactly what they want, what they actually want. They are living on surface, but in their depths, what do they want? This is what you will discover after some time when you are advancing in your spirituality. Try doing that. Try catering to those needs, okay? Now, after if you still go advanced, then you will find not just one person, but all human beings, humanity as a whole. What does the humanity as a whole want? Not on the surface, but in the depth. So that is exactly what you need to do. That is the mission of Sri Ramakrishna, which Vivekananda is talking about. So if you are able to do what the humanity in depth wants, in its depth wants, that is the mission of Sri Ramakrishna, for which he has taken this avatara of, and he has limited himself in this petty human body and suffered all these human petty sufferings, like disease and suffering. Breathing is a suffering if you properly technically want to calculate. The state of not having to breathe is very, very superior. That is samadhi. Okay. So this, as long as you are in the body, you will have to breathe, right? That itself is a burden. We don't know because we are used to it. Okay. So one other quote. Look upon every man, woman, everyone as God. You cannot help anyone. You can only serve. Serve the children of the Lord. Serve the Lord Himself. If you have the privilege, it is a privilege to serve the Lord in human form. Look upon every man, woman, and everyone as God. Are you a follower of Vivekananda? Really? Can you be proud of that? Can you say that to yourself every morning and evening? If you can, he is being quite direct here. Look upon every man, woman, and everyone as God. You cannot help anyone, you can only serve. Okay? So this is not helping, this is serving. If you look upon every man, woman, and everyone as God, you would not dare violate their free will. That will be the first sign that you have been able to recognize what Vivekananda said is to be true. I know some people who meditate regularly morning, evening, morning, evening, morning, evening. I have seen it with my own eyes. They meditate very well. Externally speaking, I cannot say anything more. I cannot judge further than that. But they meditate very well. They are very, very still like Buddha. Their body stays like Buddha. And they do arati, they do bhajans, they hear music, and they're quite devoted. Okay, fine. All that religious life is fine. But they cannot, they violate human beings. In the sense, they violate the will of the human beings, the free will of the human beings. They know people will have free will, but they want control over the other person. They want to choose for the other people. Now, those other people may be their own, that is what they may think. But when the other person who you think is your own is telling you that they want that choice for themselves, then you should not be offended, right? So that is the point. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if you are violating any one being's free will, then we have not understood that that being is God. It's very important. Anyway, it is a privilege. Vivekananda is saying it is a privilege to worship God as a human being. He also says elsewhere that we are the servants of that God who by the ignorant is called man. Look how proudly he presents himself as servant of man, human being. Are we really able to do justice to Vivekananda's expectations? Okay, why am I asking you that? What am I doing? I'm doing everything I can. I can prove it. You can talk to me whenever you want, face to face, live, and then a recorded live, and we can stream it live, and then we can have it in somebody's channel, your channel, my channel, for the posterity to decide whether we have done things or not, etc. We can have live discussion about it. But are we as a team doing it? No, we are not doing it. Have we been able to recognize the goal at least? No. What is the logical end of the mission of Ramakrishna? What is the logical end of the mission of the Ramakrishna? When do you consider that Ramakrishna's mission has ended? You don't know. I know. You don't know. That is the problem. It's not that you don't know, you don't want to know. That is even bigger problem. Because if you know it, if there is a logical end, and if you achieve it, all your donations will stop. Now, you may think that I am accusing a very big thing, and I will admit that you might not know it yet. But in the depths, that is the reason. I can see that. Once a brahmachari in Hyderabad ashram, when Ranganathanandaji was president, on a festival day, there would be arati in the noon time, after the homam, everything is done. That would be the last event. Arati would be event, and then people go to take prasad, everyone. So that Aarti was supposed to be around 10 to 15 minutes. This brahmachari was offering Aarti to Sri Ramakrishna in the temple. Temple is fully packed. Ranganathanandaji was sitting. The other monks are also sitting. Songs are being sung. Aarti is done. Song is over. That brahmachari was still going on, continuing to give that Aarti. It's not stopping. I think maybe it went to 5 minutes more or 6 minutes more. I don't know exactly. But what I heard later is that Ranganathananji called this brahmachari to his room and scolded him. He accused this brahmachari of wanting to show his buttocks. Do you want to show your buttocks to all these devotees? This is what he said, it seems. You may find that that accusation is too much. But even that brahmachari might not know that. It's not buttocks in the gross form or something like that, though the words were used. But what he meant was that, did he want to be a hero, draw attention to himself? What is the motive? So Ranganathanji was questioning the motive there. He's trying to draw the brahmachari's attention towards that motive, which is hugely important for spiritual progress. In the same way, for the progress of this mission, I am questioning, is it because if you come to know and announce the logical end that you have understood as the end for the mission of Ramakrishna on this planet, and work for it, and then you actually achieve that mission successfully, then how will you live if you don't have donations? How will all these things work, etc.? Whether all monks will be asked to go back to their forests. Is that what you are fearing? Because monks don't have any duty in this society, right? Strictly speaking, monks belong to the forest. So we ought to be in forests. But Vivekananda brought all of us into cities because the society is not able to solve its own problems. So he wanted us all to be catalysts in the society, which means catalyst means it does not involve in the reaction, but it quickens the reaction. So we ought to work like that. But we became society, part of society, and we are living on society's money, and we don't have any plan to shut this whole activity down someday. What is your target? In 50 years, do you want to solve all the problems of the society and shut down this whole show? Or in 60? Or in 100 years? Okay, I'll give you 100 years. Do you want it? No, you don't want. You want to prolong this because Vivekananda said 1500 years this mission will go on. Okay, why don't you end it earlier? He's talking about existence, okay. Why don't you do it better? Would Vivekananda stop you, object, if you want to finish off all the problems in this world in 50 years instead of 1500? Do we still reserve the right to have our own brain and analyze? No, if not, then why are you changing the rules of Vivekananda that he established? Then stick to those rules. No, you said things have changed, society has changed, times have changed, then we have to change the rules. Okay, so you are saying you have original thinking, you have room for that, well and good. Use that original thinking and achieve the mission's goals, mission of Ramakrishna's goals earlier. Or just tell us some time, 1000 years, 1200 years, whatever it is. Okay, 1500 years, are you aiming that this is the amount of work, this is the amount of time, 1500 years that we have, and we have come 100 years or more, so this much we have achieved, this is the remaining work, how much to achieve, what do we want, what do we have? Have you done a SWOT analysis in public? SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. No, sir. Then I am sorry, sir. I cannot see how this mission is going to be successful according to Vivekananda's expectations. So I cannot continue to be part of that. And therefore I severed my relationship with that so-called legal entity. But that is just a small dimension of Vivekananda's work and Ramakrishna's mission. Things will hopefully change. I mean, in gross level speaking, physically speaking, it is a big part. But in other dimensions, it is a smaller part. Anyway, so Shivaratri message is that if you still see Shiva only in dead symbols, I am not saying that. Quoting Vivekananda, dead symbols, then your progress is but preliminary. But if you are able to see man, woman, everyone as God. In fact, Uddhava, my name is Uddhav. Do you know what Sri Krishna told Uddhav? In Uddhav Gita, you will find it in Bhagavatam 11th canto, I think. He said, Visrijjas mayamanan swan drisham vridan chadaihikim praname dandavat bhuma vasva chandala gokharam. Ignoring the derisive smiles of friends and relatives, fall flat in front of a Brahmin, a donkey, a dog and a dog eater. For I am the one in all of these things. I am Brahman. I am the one doing all these things. All of these people are equal. All of these entities are equally great. Recognize me. Ignore the derisive smiles. They don't know. They cannot see. You have Brahmagnana. They don't. Fall flat in front of all these people. This is real worship. This is the truth Sri Krishna told right before he left his mortal frame. How great is that? To a large extent, by God's grace, I am able to see the same thing. And that is why my name is Uddhav. It's not just a fancy. All the best, friends. Thank you.